All right, great. Well, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Larry, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you to Heather and Cyber New Brunswick for having us today. We really appreciate your time and attention, and hopefully we'll tell you about some new ideas and some new concept that IBM is advocating for. So today, Heather and I are going to discuss and advocate for an approach to addressing the skills gap in a variety of different technical areas, but specifically, we're going to talk about cybersecurity today. So kind of the genesis for this program that we're going to talk about and kind of the concept was from our CEO, Ginny Rometty, and she announced this point of view back at the end of 2016. And you can see her quote up there, but really it was in order to address the changing nature of work and the new IT skills that were needed across industries. I mean, everything from agriculture to manufacturing to services, really across the board. Her other main point was that today's tech jobs don't necessarily need a full four-year university education, right? And it's really focused more on, the new collar approach is really focused more on skills and less on actual degrees. So it's more about kind of skills and experience. So let's put this skills gap in a little bit of context, right? So the IBM Institute for Business Value, we do kind of a C-suite survey every 18 months or so, right? And we've been doing it for 14 years. So it's nice because we have a lot of longitudinal data that we can look at. And one of the questions that we always ask is around kind of what important external forces are going to impact enterprises, over the next few years. And so for our most recent C-suite study, we interviewed over 12,500 C-suite executives all around the world. And we basically, this was just one of many questions that we asked them. And we said, all right, well, what's the big thing that's going to impact you over the next couple of years? And we saw a big leap from the last time we did around people skills, right? And you can see it here. It's almost on par with both market and technological factors as well. And I'm kind of speculating, but I think one of the reasons for this might be is because over the last 5 or so years, we've seen a lot of emerging technologies enter into the business space. Everything from machine learning and AI to, obviously data science, cybersecurity, blockchain, a number of different areas. And I think businesses are starting to really realize and have to catch up to truly leverage the value of these technologies. They need the right skills. So I think that might be part of it. The other piece is looking in Canada, right? We talked to I think it was about 400 of that sample were Canadian executives in the C-suite. And you can see here, same thing, right? But people skills have really been on the top of the agenda, since 2015, since we did the last one. So this is just really to kind of, put things in context and really think about, we're going to talk about cybersecurity skills a lot today, but it's really more, this IT skills issue runs across many different areas. And I think there's obviously, we're here today, we're learning from one another. I think we can learn from other areas as well. And also what we've developed here can be used for other areas in the IT industry as well. So kind of last context setting chart is, you're all well aware because you're all part of it, but because of the cybersecurity skills gap has gotten a lot of increased awareness and a lot of focus. There's a lot of programs, people are doing a lot of amazing things. But this isn't a challenge that's going to go away in the near term, right? This is something that's going to take years and years and years. And even looking at the most recent ISACA State of Cybersecurity report that came out, I think, a month or two ago, you can still see that a lot of enterprises have open positions, and it's taking a long time to fill those positions. So even though it is getting them more attention, it is getting more effort and focus, it's not going to go away overnight. So this is something we have to continue to focus on and continue to work on as well. And we've heard, and you've all heard, it could be 1 million, it could be 2 million open positions globally over the next few years. There's a lot of different, numbers in different regions and provinces and states and countries and things like that. But I think it's important not to just think of the raw numbers. Yeah, I think it quantifies the issue and it drives action, I think. But it really looks at, everyone is challenged, right? Industry, us at IBM, we have 8,000 security professionals in our IBM business unit, and we've hired 2,000 just within the last couple years alone. We need candidates with the right skills, hands-on experience, and it's difficult to find people with the right qualifications, not only just in numbers but in quality too. So, so that's a challenge that industry has. And on the same side, professionals, they have to keep up to date with all the latest technologies, all the latest trends, all the latest threats. So they're pressured. So it's difficult for them to maybe mentor new people that come in and give them the time and attention that they need to build their skills to integrate into the organization. So that's difficult as well. So on that side, right, that's kind of more the demand side, right, industry and professionals. And then on the supply side, academic institutions have some problems, right, because there's a lot of new programs being developed. There's a lot of new university level programs, community college level programs, I mean, even high school programs. And it's difficult to get this shortage of qualified teachers, especially when the attraction to industry and the high salaries there is so great. So there's a bit of a struggle there on the supply side as well. And students are challenged because they have so many different options. They don't know what the right education pathway might be. They don't know what skills are going to resonate. And they don't really know where to get started. So it's important to kind of give them guidance there, where many of you obviously are doing. And then, if that's not bad enough, right, then across the profession, you have an underrepresentation of women and other groups, and there's wage gaps in the field. And then there's also competition between the public and private sector, because we're all fishing out of the same pond, basically. So it gets difficult there. All right, so the good news, and I'm going to hand it over to Heather, is, so that's kind of the bad news, right? And the good news is, because of this challenge, right, a lot of times really, really tough problems breed really creative solutions. And so organizations are doing a ton of different things, and many of you are part of that, to address these talent challenges. So I'll let Heather talk a little bit about some of these and what IBM's doing across some of these areas.
Right, so for me, on that previous chart, I think one of the main points really is we're squeezed at both ends, right? We're struggling to fill the funnel at the top end to feed the talent pipeline, and at the other end, we struggle to retain resources across, whether it's, as you said, industry, government, or academia. And so, we've all heard about the numbers, as you said. It doesn't matter what report you read, whether it's 1.8 million unfilled jobs or 3.5 million. The point is, it's too many. And as David said, we're not going to solve the problem overnight, and nor are we going to solve it with a single effort. There's no silver bullet here. We need to take multiple approaches. We need to try all different things, and we need to target different areas. Meaning, whether it's the K-12 space or it's veterans, we've kind of got to reach all people to attract new talent. So at IBM, we're doing a number of different things that David and I will talk about. We've been implementing apprenticeships, which really are new for us. Internships we have been doing for years, but we're particularly focused on internships in our IBM security business unit these days to attract new talent. So we kind of have a motto. It's recruit once, hire twice. So meaning recruit a student for an internship and hope that they come back full-time when they're finished their education. We're involved in competitions and clubs. And I mean, you can read all of the bullets here. I want to focus on maybe 2 or 3 things that excite me. So one, of course, is Cyber Titan. We're a proud sponsor of this season of Cyber Titan, and trust me, I plan to be back for next season. It's so exciting to see what's going on across the road, and honestly, I wish I could clone myself the past couple of days, because I've kind of been going back and forth. And one of the things I've been talking to Sandra Sarek about is how do we get more girls involved in Cyber Titan. You saw the kids walking across the stage yesterday. And I know that I'm not the only one who was counting the number of girls, 3, right? And that's representative of industry, honestly. We see the same thing in industry. Another thing that David and I have been involved in is sponsoring Hacker High School. We actually were hoping Pete Herzog, who actually is a former IBMer who started Hacker High School, was going to be here this week, but he couldn't make it from Spain. And Hacker High School is a new approach to educating students. I don't know if you've never heard of it, honestly, just Google Hacker High School. It's a series of free online modules, really kind of aimed at teaching ethical hacking, and we specifically sponsored a new module, a new lesson that's going to be coming out very shortly on all centered around what it means to be a junior SOC analyst. So the target age for Hacker High School starts around 18, so I would say, right, David?
Yeah.
18, so late teens, early 20s is really kind of the target age, and they really make the learning fun. The modules can be used individually by students online for self-learning or incorporated by teachers, whether, high school teachers, for example, either into a course curriculum or as an extracurricular learning activity. And then the third thing I'll mention is 3CS. 3CS, or the Community College Cyber Summit. That takes place this year. It's in Portland, Oregon, brings together a number of community colleges from across the US. I'm not aware of any Canadian colleges attending, but I imagine that it would be open to Canadian colleges. Anyway, the point is we've, like many companies in industry have traditionally focused on hiring from universities, we are very intentionally looking at community colleges to attract new talent and not limiting our recruiting to schools that only produce four-year graduates and or post-grad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, like you said, I mean, this is such a large problem. It's going to take a whole bunch of different solutions and creative solutions, and you can just see kind of some of the things here. So what IBM has been pushing over the last year and a half or so is a new collar approach. And like I said, it's more about skills and not degrees. If you can prove that you have the right skills, or as Liam Neeson would say, a particular set of skills, then there's a job for you, there's a place for you at IBM. And so really, when you think about trying to fill a talent shortage traditionally, right, there's three ways. You can change the environment of your organization. You can have a great vision, a wonderful leadership team, be a great place to work, have high salary, good personal fulfillment, right, and that's great. You can change the operating model. You can use more automation. You can maybe outsource, use a managed security service provider, something like that. Or what we're going to be talking about, I think, a bit more is kind of the third way, right? Change who the organization pursues. And it's really this opening the aperture of who you recruit, who you look for, where you can find talent, and really look at places that traditionally, I mean, even IBM hasn't, we haven't traditionally looked, like you said.
Right.
I mean, we've been very traditional in terms of looking at the same universities over and over, and we really need to expand our aperture because we're missing potential superstars and potential untapped sources of talent. So, right, so it's going to take all three of these in combination, but just changing the environment or changing the operating model, that just helps a single organization. And we think that opening the aperture and expanding how you do recruiting and who you bring into an organization, that really increases the entire pool for everyone of this limited resource, right? So that's really what we kind of want to focus on. And really the new collar approach, it focuses on kind of three main areas. So we have new employee profiles, which covers things like, different backgrounds and skill sets, focuses on continuous learning, focuses on professional growth. It looks at new types of roles, restructuring roles around skills, as opposed to, do you have your four-year university degree, and going from there, and maybe trying to create some new roles that's a better fit for people with different backgrounds. And then finally, new partnerships are extremely important as well. Having and building that security ecosystem, expanding recruitment, like you said, and building those relationships and collaborating with schools. And that's why, I mean, as someone who isn't local, it's amazing to see this wonderful ecosystem that's been built across government, industry, education, on all different levels, and see that really, I think, embodies the principles of a new collar approach, so to speak. So really, this is, kind of what I talked about before. It's the skills that are important. From a role standpoint, it's really around emerging technologies. Like I said, at IBM, it's not just cybersecurity, which is what we're focused on, but things like design, data science, mobile development, cloud, project management, things like that. These are the types of skills and the roles that we need. And really kind of building across the board, whether it's a bit US-centric, but federal and state government programs in the US or provincial programs, community college programs, K through 12, and veterans ones as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about the veterans
I will,
program?
yeah,
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about skills, right, people are going to say, okay, great, skills are good. What skills? Like, what skills are going to be important? Do we have a list? And I know you get asked all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, when you do recruiting events, like, where's the checklist? What certifications do I need? What exact skills do I need? And we tended to take a little bit of a different approach and look at, I think, broad core attributes that would be important no matter if you're, say, working in a SOC or you want to be a CISO someday, right? And so we tried to identify, through discussions and through talking with experts and things like that and educators, what are these core areas? So things like being a student, right? This constant learning that's so important and you have to kind of take through your career. Being a problem solver, right? Having that hands-on experience, being able to build things and take things apart, being able to investigate things and challenge the status quo. Being an explorer, I think, is really, really important for a security professional, right? You have to be analytic, methodical, detail-oriented. You want to know how things work. You want to understand, why. Think about scenarios and risks and what-ifs and things like that. And then again, right, you have to be a guardian. You have to be protective and ethical and reliable, and you have to have that really ingrained in your personality. And then being a consultant as well. You have to help educate others. You have to help others with security. We talk all the time about the gap between business leaders and security leaders, and bridging that gap through education. So being a consultant, being able to educate others and have those conversations, I think, is extremely important. I don't know, do you want to chat about this a little bit? Or?
Yeah, I will. So as you said, I do get asked all the time, and of course students or anyone, frankly, looking for a new position, they do ask me, what skills do I need? So they want to know specific certifications or degrees or whatever that will get them a job. So they want me to say something like, go get your CISSP designation and we'll hire you. But I do focus on these skills. I tell students in particular when they're writing their resumes and their cover letters, don't forget about all the soft skills. Demonstrate to me that you have leadership skills, that you're involved in your community, you're giving back, you're involved in your school, you handled, you didn't just spend 2 or 4 years or however many years studying, with your nose in the books. Demonstrate to me hands-on skills. Have you competed in cybersecurity competitions like Cyber Titan or Cyber Patriot or CCDC in the US? Because to me, these kinds of things demonstrate not only leadership and involvement, but a passion for learning, which is so key in cybersecurity because, as David has said, and you all know, things are changing so quickly and new technologies are being developed every day. We see new threats every day. You've got to be on your toes and you've got to be willing to constantly learn new things. And not everybody is necessarily going to demonstrate all of these attributes, but I think over time, throughout our careers, the very best leaders in, particularly in cybersecurity, but I'll say in the tech industry in general, demonstrate some level of all of these attributes, and they know when to call upon which of these skills, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that, as we were talking, a lot of the specific skills and the technologies, things like that, can be taught once they come into the organization.
Absolutely.
So this is really, we want to look for people that have a very, very strong foundation, and then they've demonstrated this in practical ways, right? It's not just theoretical. Yeah, that's good. So the other thing that we look at, so obviously we look at skills, so we can also look at the different types of roles that are there as well. And we like to kind of break things up a little bit. It's not just about technical roles, right, in security. And we've kind of broken it up into these 3 different areas, what we call builders, operators, and communicators, which are all essential for our business, and I think for security in general, right? Maybe you're someone that really likes to get your hands dirty, likes to be the builder, likes to be the developer, likes to do the coding, right? There's great new collar roles, integration engineer, test engineers, things like that. Maybe you like to get, you like to work in the SOC. You want to be in the middle of things, right? So maybe you're more of an operator, right? Maybe you're a threat hunter or a pen tester or something like that. Maybe that's what you want to do. And then the third one, which I think gets overlooked sometimes, is maybe you have a really strong passion for cybersecurity, but maybe you're more maybe you're more of a communicator. And I think we've talked about sometimes we feel like this is kind of where we fit in sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Maybe you're a technical writer, you're an awareness trainer, you're a help desk analyst, right? These all require some different skills, and they're all part of that really important cybersecurity ecosystem. So there's not just, there's such a wide variety, and I think it's important to communicate that and to leverage those skills that I mentioned before. And then, finally, we kind of talk about that third area is new partnerships, right? And there's a bunch of different partnerships, and these are just some samples that we kind of recommended in our study, looking at things like community college programs, looking at federal, state, provincial government programs as well, because there are things that are out there. Looking at things like the education program, cyber competitions like cyber time. We've already talked about it before, but maybe we could chat a little bit about our veterans work here, because I think this is a good place to chat about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as part of our new collar program, we are focused on veterans programs. Specifically, we have something, I think it's on the next slide. It's called, Veterans Employment Accelerator. And the focus there is on training and certification programs for military veterans. And I know some of you have stopped by our booth and may have already asked about this flyer that we had there. I wanted to mention, as a part of this program, we have a week-long IBM Qradar training happening here in Fredericton. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's across the street, but don't quote me on that. If you're interested and want to look up the details, I know that as of the end of last week, there were still seats available. And so it runs June 18th to 22nd. And so if you are a veteran looking for retraining, or you know someone who might be interested, this is open to transitioning CAF members and honorably released veterans. So I wanted to mention that one. Yeah.
Great.
Do you want me to talk a bit about some of the other things on this next chart? Yeah.
Sure.
So I know you're going to talk a bit about P-Tech in a moment, so I'll focus a little bit on WISE and Cyber Day for Girls. I know Larry mentioned that when he introduced me. Attracting more women and young girls into this industry. And when I say this industry, I'm really talking about tech in general. More specifically these days about IBM and cybersecurity. And why is that? It's because in cybersecurity we have globally, on average, only 11% female representation. So when I said seeing just 3 girls out of 51 students walk across the stage yesterday, that's representative of industry, that's what I was referring to. And in fact, it's actually, that representation was slightly worse, but because it was less than 10%. But that's what we're trying to change. And so it's because of that we developed Cyber Day for Girls. We very specifically decided to focus on middle school girls, so grades 7 and 8 is the sweet spot, because that's when they start thinking about opting out of science and math in particular as soon as they can. And what we're trying to do with this program is a number of things. One, to make them aware that cybersecurity is even a thing that they can study, a thing they can build a career on, and that, oh, by the way, it's for girls too, it's not just for boys. We try to dispel the myth that in cybersecurity or in the tech industry, period, that you have to be deeply technical, as David has been referring to, and I'm sure all of you in the room know, there are many different jobs within this industry. There's a place for everyone. And so what we try to help the girls understand is that if they want to help make the world a safer place, there might very well be a place for them in cybersecurity. Because we need people who are policymakers, technical writers, communicators, educators. It's not just about being a researcher or a programmer, and it's not just about having a computer science degree, for example. I've talked about the VETS program. Another thing, in addition to focusing on educating vets, we are also focused on recruiting veterans. And in fact, in IBM Security, a number of our recent hires are actually from the veteran pool. And then we've already talked a lot about sponsoring competitions. We've specifically talked about Cyber Titan. We do sponsor a couple of others in the US that are higher ed competitions, the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition and the Collegiate Pen Testing Competition. And, you know, much like what we're doing here today, we don't just, you know, throw some money at the competition by sponsoring them financially. We show up, we participate, we have volunteers and mentors, and we are actively trying to recruit from those competitions as well. In particular, recruit students for internships.
Yeah. So I know some of this may feel like a bit of a commercial, but really I think what we're trying to do is we're on a journey too as a large global company, right? This is, you know, this is our problem too, and we're learning, right? And we're not to where we want to be yet, and I don't think we're to our end goal yet. But this is what we're trying, and some of it's going to work really well. Some of it might not work quite as well. But we just wanted to really kind of share our learnings and our experience, because maybe it'll inspire you, or maybe you'll have some great ideas for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing I just want to touch on, briefly here is you may be familiar, may not be familiar with what IBM's been doing with the PTech program, and PTech stands for Pathways in Technology Early College High School. It maybe not the best acronym, but it's descriptive, and I will use PTech from now on. But really, how it was designed, it was initially started in 2011 in Brooklyn, New York, by the New York City Department of Education, the City University of New York, and IBM as an industry partner. And really, it was designed to help serve historically disadvantaged populations and provide a clearer path to postgraduate opportunities, whether that's a job, a full-time job, or four-year university. And so it really seeks to link industry, government, and education, providing that, blending that supply and demand. So, we have high school, college, and the world of work a little bit more blended, and I think that we can react a little bit better and a little bit faster to the demands of both the students and of industry. And so it's free, it's not screened for admission. The graduates come out with a high school diploma, a 2-year degree, and work experience through an internship with their industry partner that's part of it. There are about 70 to 80 programs in the US, and I think there are 14 right now, either fully engaged or planned in Australia at the moment. And then there's some other pockets of international acceptance as well. And so this is still growing and still developing as well. And since it is a 6-year program, the first graduates, just graduated, pretty recently, and we've had a number of them come into IBM, and I myself have had a couple of interns from PTech as part of my team over the years, and I learned a ton from them, and hopefully they learn a ton from us as well. And for cybersecurity specifically, so each of these PTech schools has a particular technical focus, right? And they have their own community college partner, education partner, their high school, and an industry partner. And so there are 3 cybersecurity specific ones in the United States. In New York, the Excelsior Academy at Newburgh Free Academy is one that IBM sponsors. There's one in Maryland, PTech at Carver, that IBM sponsors as well. And there's one in my home state of Rhode Island, Newport PTech, which is sponsored by a coalition of defense companies. And what the industry partners do is we provide mentors, really involved mentors through a formal process that work on a month-to-month basis. And in fact, people are so excited at PTech Carver in Baltimore. I think each of the students has 2 mentors, which is wonderful. And it also provides them with workplace experience, right? I mean, imagine getting this kind of high-level global business exposure at high school age, and again through those internships. So I think those are that's a little bit of a background about that particular program as well. And then I know you've talked about it a little bit, but is there other things that you want to chat about? How we're trying to, obviously, in increasing this pool that we need to draw from, closing the gender gap a little bit.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think I've probably shared the main points that I wanted to share about attracting more girls. Honestly, if anybody has any questions, I know a number of folks have been asking me over the past couple of days how we started Cyber Day for Girls, how we recruit girls, how we engage with schools. If you have questions, I'll be at our booth at the next break, and you know, please come and see me. I'm always happy to talk about Cyber Day for Girls. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Those are just a couple of pictures from some past experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap up here, so we talked a little bit about what IBM's New Collar program is, the 3 areas that we're trying to focus on through skills, through new roles, and through new partnerships, and trying, you know, kind of how we're looking at that a little bit differently than we've traditionally looked at it. And then finally, we actually have a New Collar program office now within IBM, and that's, you know, who we've worked with in the past, and what they're focused on at the moment. One is developing formal apprenticeship programs. So in the United States, we have to get our formal apprenticeship programs basically registered and approved by the U.S. Department of Labor, and you can see the 6 areas over there on the chart, what got approved most recently. Obviously, you know, these apprenticeship programs are very formal, very structured, include an education component, run 12 to 18 months as well. So this is kind of one thing that we're doing. And from a cybersecurity standpoint, it's in work, right?
Yes.
So we're learning here. We're going to try out some cybersecurity apprenticeships as well to see how that works. Also, the kind of the second tier, the second area that our New Collar office is looking at is our Community College Skills Accelerator, which is working, again, we're trying to expand our recruitment past traditional 4-year universities. There are actually, I think, about 300 community college programs in the US that have some sort of cybersecurity program, course, certificate, something like that. And that is a huge pool. That is thousands and thousands of students that we could be reaching out to and seeing if there are potential superstars there. So we have these skills roadmaps that we provide across a wide variety of areas. From a security standpoint, we have an application security analyst and a security intelligence analyst skills roadmap, and access to free tools to actually use those roadmaps. So teachers in community colleges can run their classes through, learn some actual industry tools, and run some programs there. And then we work with them to basically get some school-specific open badges so they can get certificate, like official recognition of their work that IBM will recognize and others will recognize as well. And you can see here in the map, you know, we've you know, have a large number of community colleges that we've started to have conversations with and starting to work with. Any community college can use our skills roadmaps and our Community College Skills Accelerator program, but these partnerships are a little bit deeper. I don't know, do you want to?
Yeah, so you'll notice it's a US map, no Canadian community colleges on there yet. Keyword is yet. I'm working on it. I'm working with some folks here in the room from Canadian colleges, and you know, as David said, though, the program, the Community College Skills Accelerator, it's open to any community college. We just have specifically partnered with some select community colleges to really build deep relationships with in the U.S. who have certain programs. So not all of these have security programs. They might have programs in other areas like, you know, data science, analytics, et cetera, cognitive computing. And I hope next year, you know, if you were to see this map, you'll see some Canadian colleges on here. But honestly, for those in the room who are, I know there are folks here from Algonquin, Mohawk, NBCC and NSCC. If you simply Google IBM Community College Skills Accelerator, you'll find our external facing page where you'll find access to all of the available resources. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so just to kind of wrap up, you know, just to make some recommendations, hopefully you took some ideas away, and I appreciate your attention. Like what we recommend when we talk to other businesses and try to advocate them to take similar approaches, and I wanted to mention, hearing yesterday NB Power and Bulletproof talk about what they're doing and how they're bringing people, that's perfect. That's the exact kind of thing that we want. That's a great example of what we would call a new collar approach.
Oh, exactly. And I was so thrilled to hear Commander Chrétien-Prévost earlier talk about how they're going to be recruiting directly from high school soon. you know, that again is another example of what we're trying to do, and we're always so excited to hear that others are latching on to this, you know, to this same idea, and recognizing that that's what it's going to take to fill some of the gaps that we currently have.
Yeah. So really, I mean, think about the entire process, right? Looking at your workforce strategies, how you do engagement and outreach, building local cybersecurity ecosystems like you have here. And then once you get them in, right, don't forget, like, it doesn't stop there when they walk in the door, because the competition is intense and people leave all the time and switch roles. So make sure to have a really great, robust support program for new hires, whether there's rotational programs or training that you can do, or attending conferences. Keep their skills fresh, keep them engaged, and continue their education when they come in the door. So with that, I think we have a couple of minutes for some questions. I'll be more than happy to answer those.
Now, I know talking cybersecurity, we need to be always aware of privacy, but wouldn't there make sense to have some sort of a technology solution to this? Like, I remember when I was in high school, and it was a long time ago, but when they did IQ tests, they never gave you your score. When they did aptitude tests, they used to, and I can remember this clear as a bell, grade 10, did a whole bunch of aptitude tests, did very, very well on them, and I had one score that was on data entry or something that was a little lower because I didn't really pay attention to all the numbers. I didn't really have that interest. And I joked with the guidance counselor and I said, I guess that's off the list. And he said, no, not really, because your score is like an 85, you know? I mean, you can do anything you want. That was absolutely useless to me. Because when somebody tells me I can do anything I want, there's no guidance anymore. So if we had some way, and I don't know what this would be, because like I said, it delves into privacy, I'm just wondering if you couldn't track people a little better, like aptitudes, interests, things like that, and incentivize them somehow. And it doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be, you know, it's cool to be this, right? The team gets trips and stuff like that. And I think that's where we're going with the cyber titans and this type of thing. But I mean, it's like a sports team. You know, sports teams don't have any problem recruiting for college and getting their players. So why can't we do that with technology?
Well, I think that there's two elements to it, and kind of what we talk about is one. I think a big piece of it is just making students aware of the possibilities, right? Because exposing them to this is a real thing in real life goes a long way, and so it may flip a couple switches in their brain and say, oh yeah, that I was kind of looking for something like that, or maybe not, right? And then on the other side, I think that obviously working with educators and working with guidance counselors and career consultants and things like that to help them understand kind of what to look for. Like if they see through whatever means, through interviews or through standardized testing or things like that, and they see some of the qualities that we talked about, maybe they can nudge them in a particular direction or give them that exposure. So yeah, that's just some ideas. I know it's a little tough.
Hi, I'm Leon Langer. I'm with the CCNB, which is the French Community College in New Brunswick here. Obviously, I was really interested where you started talking about collaboration with community college. And I don't know who you've been talking to, but on the French side, we're ready as well. And I would be curious to know if there's any projects already going on. We're aware that the whole world of IT works in English, and we're training our students to work in the English workplace as well, but we're offering the training in French. So I was just wondering if there's any plans of collaboration with the French colleges or universities.
Not that I'm currently aware of, but maybe we can start something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm hoping for. So maybe we can talk afterwards to see what. Yep.
I think maybe we have time for one more.
Thank you. Dave Wellborn, CyberMB. It's interesting to see how we're going back to what we used to do, right? So I left school in 1974, age 16, and joined the army because I didn't know what to do. And then when I left the army in 85, there was a huge dearth of coders. So I was on a retraining program. It wasn't aimed particularly at veterans, but it was like a 16-week course, really focused course on training to be a COBOL analyst programmer. Now, I think the retraining opportunity here is huge. You think of all those network administrators and those server administrators who have basically, with virtualization of their environments, they used to look after 40 servers, now looking after 400. There must be a whole gap of people who could be retrained, who are already in that mindset. That's one thing. And then the other comment really is not a question, I'm just sort of giving you some feedback. When I left the army and retrained as a computer programmer, I didn't have time to go back to school. I didn't have a degree or any of those formal education. My education was military. People did not understand what terrorist recognition meant in those days. So I used the Open University in the UK, which is a mechanism of education. I think in Canada it's called Athabasca. So I think there's an opportunity there to make that sort of training. I think you're trying to do it with P-Tech. It seems similar where there's no prerequisite education required and people can get into those courses and take them and develop their own pathway.
Yeah.
And I chose from lots of different fields of education in order to work with my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that is a powerful mechanism there as well.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about it, but there are other elements to our new collar approach, including what you just referred to, you know, folks who maybe are self-trained, they don't even necessarily have any sort of degree or certification, or that are wanting to retrain. So there's kind of that group in the middle that aren't necessarily, you know, early professionals. They're not veterans, but they're looking to retrain. So that's definitely a part of it as well.
Yeah, I think there's a large number of, I mean, that's the thing we're trying to expose, and I think maybe pay more attention to all the various paths that people can take and maybe put some effort behind it. I know that within our own, like I said, our security business unit has 8,000 people, but we have our own, you know, we have to secure IBM itself, and we have a couple hundred people that are part of IBM's own internal security operations. And I know they've taken a very unique approach to building their teams and retraining people from across the company or from other roles because they have certain skills or they have a certain mindset to use. So that's a good point. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Well, hey, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your attention, and enjoy the rest of the day.